Welcome to Dungeon Jedi Masters. My name is Tegan Jenkins. I'm going to be going through how to run a Session Zero in a galaxy far, far away. So if you've been in the hobby of D&D, you've probably heard about Session Zeros repeatedly. I'm not sure if they're a modern function or if they're just more talked about lately, but everybody talks about them for ways to help get your group on the same page, make sure that you're interested in telling the same type of story, and just really make sure that everybody's kind of in a cohesive form to really get started on the group storytelling adventure. And that's especially true for Star Wars 5e. There's a lot that goes into it that's a little bit different than traditional D&D, and I'm going to take you through those and go through how best to run a Session Zero in a galaxy far, far away. But before we get into that, kind of timely with this, I want to plug my stream on this side. Check me out at Twitch TV /TeganDJM. You'll see that right below my name there too. Timely with this because I'm going to be running a Session Zero for my upcoming campaign, Invasion, on January 25th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Twitch TV /TeganDJM. So check it out there. We're going to go through, we're going to meet the players, go through the lore of the galaxy, as well as go through some of my house rules, different things that we'll be utilizing, tone of the campaign, and just different things to really make sure that my players and myself are on the same page and that everybody kind of knows what to expect. So tune in there, and also highlight that too. We wanted to kind of embrace the partnership that we had with Dimension 20 and Dropout TV. So on January 25th at 6:30 p.m. We're going to be doing a giveaway for attendees of this stream. It's going to be at the end of the stream, so join at 6:30, but wait till the end of the stream. And for those who enter, we're going to be raffling off 3 months of Dropout TV, so you guys can catch the new campaign, Starstruck, see how Star Wars 5e is when played by the pros, and I've seen the first 2 episodes so far, and it's hilarious, great story forming, highly recommended, and we want to make sure we can give that experience to you guys, our fans. So join me then. If you haven't subscribed to my Twitch channel, we're going to see how I do with my own Session Zero. But getting into the meat of it. So Session Zero is a great resource. It really allows you to just make sure that your team is on the same page, going over different things like how to handle conflict in a session, different house rules they're going to be using, even simple things such as scheduling. And a lot of these are covered better elsewhere with just the vast plethora of different Session Zero icons or media and different Reddit threads and documents that go over it, so I'm not going to go into these pieces too much. What I really want to hit with this video is where Star Wars 5e is different. And there's a lot of things that I would say to really focus on when running a Star Wars 5e session. Biggest thing, and this is true for me, and I've been playing this system for about 3 years. I'm on the development council, and between Dungeon Jedi Masters and everything going on with it, I pay pretty close attention to the system and new releases and all the different changes. But even still, there's a lot that I miss going on with this system. There's a huge amount of content. With traditional 5e, it's easy to go in and say, hey, I like this, but I don't like this, and let your players know. Give yourself as a DM a little bit of leeway, and players give your DM some leeway to be surprised by something and then have a good conversation about it afterwards. I always try to say with Session Zero, try to get as much that you know about that may not be cool or you may want to have a conversation with before with your players ahead of time, but just give yourself the leeway. If something does surprise you, to say, go to that player or go to your DM and say, hey, this is a little bit beyond what my scope is, or kind of what I like to DM for. Let's rework it. Let's talk it out. Because there's over 100 archetypes, definitely more than 100 species. This so many different things that there's really no way to have 100% handle on them all. And I'm saying this is somebody that's on the council and that reads pretty much everything coming out. There's just so much of it that it's easy to miss something and kind of have it bite you when it comes back up. So just really give yourself some of that leeway. The other big things when going through Star Wars 5e, they've actually codified a lot of the house rules and optional rules that people play with as variant rules. So I highly recommend checking out the Star Wars 5e variant rules section and see if there's anything in there that you think is cool or think could add some utility to your game. For fans of Hunted, you'll know that I ran the Hunted variant with my last system, or last streamed campaign, and it was a fun way to kind of go over the state of the galaxy with that in between KOTOR 1 and 2 period with the Force Wounds, hunting Jedi and other Force users. It just added a lot to my game. It added what I wanted to my game. So take a look. Highly recommend going through there for things like light side, dark side points, variant rules for how to handle leveling and how to handle armor class. There's just so many different things there that could really hit your style. So I recommend reading through those before Session 0 as a DM and then going through each of those ones that you want to run with your table, just so they know the rule in and out, there's no surprises, and that they can kind of come to know what to expect and come and have a good time when they're running the session. So for instance, you'll see this as we go through my Session 0, but I'm running a couple core variants that I thought were cool or cool to add to the invasion aesthetic that I'm going with. So a couple of the big ones that I thought were going to be pretty fun, or using the Yuzan Vong. They're a pretty brutal martial species. So we're running the dismemberment variant rule. They made a little bit of modifications to it. The old system, I think, required 2 nat 20s to be able to dismember something. I thought there has to be a high threshold, but I thought 2 nat 20s is just so rare it'll never happen. So with my table, I'm going to have if you get a true natural 20, so this won't be affected by things like Keen or some of the fighters' rules where they can kind of reduce their crit threshold. But if you get a true nat 20 crit, you're going to roll, the attacker is going to roll a 2d20, so d20 with disadvantage. The defender is going to roll a d20 with advantage. And if the attacker beats that defender, you're going to be able to lop off or roll on the dismemberment table to see if you lop off a hand, a limb, or even a head. So I thought it'd be a cool way to do it, make it a little bit more frequent, but still keep that rarity in, because you don't want them rolling up and dismember the Rancor boss just right from the go. So I thought that'd be kind of a cool way to do it. And I've got other variant rules that I'm running, like ASI with the feet. I don't know if that's a variant nowadays. I think she still is in the system as a variant, but highly recommend if you're not running your players that way to do so. But more importantly, this is the best way to go through it with your players and let them know what's going on with that Session 0, what they can expect, what variant rules are going to be played at the table, so they know exactly if somebody rolls. I'm using this for my enemies too, so if an enemy rolls a nat 20 and they beat them on that draw, they could lose their hand. They could lose their head. But this way, it's not a surprise when the roll comes up. So there's not going to be as much conflict or as much angst. And everybody's going to hopefully have fun with it and be on the same page. So highly recommend just having that conversation there. Other big things with Star Wars 5e, outside of the variant rules, which is definitely a big piece, I would recommend going over what books you're using. Now, this is something that's common for 5e to go over, but I think there's just more variants with Star Wars 5e that really puts a little extra emphasis on this point. Because Star Wars 5e, you've got the core books, you've got the Player's Handbook, you've got Wretched Hives, Starships of the Galaxy, and all three of those, Player's Handbook will leave out, but the two, Starships of the Galaxy and Wretched Hives, could really make a big difference in how the game's played, especially Starships of the Galaxy. So going over in Session 0, what you're going to be utilizing, how they're going to be utilized, will just let the players know what to expect and how to build their PC, just to make sure they're getting the most entertainment, utility, whatever they're looking for out of it and can really enjoy your game. So highly recommend doing that. Especially for Starships of the Galaxy. So I'm going to be using that for my new campaign, Invasion. So I'm going to be going on over that, have the players assign roles. So who wants to be the pilot, who wants to be the gunner, all of that. And I'm also going to see who wants to make the ship. Because one of the big things that we've talked about this in the podcast, but really something that could save the day and make a session so much easier, is making sure everybody has their deployment built out and the ship built out far in advance of game day. So that's what I'm going to do with Session 0, is just have them decide who wants to build it. I'm willing to build it myself, but I know players always like to get that customization and see if they can assign that amongst themselves. And they get that all designed, and then going to give some probably tip sheets or just some helpful hints to the players to, within Roll20 or whatever system you're using. I'm going to be using Roll20 just to make sure that when game day comes, they know what to do, how to do it, and nothing's going to kind of scare them on that side. So that's another big one, just kind of what those systems you're going to be using, the different things to go along with that. Another resource, and this is kind of a collection of some of the different things we've talked about already, but we wanted to give you guys a way to be able to kind of go through as a DM and kind of see the frequently asked questions or the frequent things that you should go over as a DM with your Star Wars 5e table during a session 0. So just a second, you're going to see my screen flip, and you're going to see our PDF that goes over Session 0 in a galaxy far, far away. So this goes over kind of the ins and outs of the different questions you should ask, or kind of ask yourself and then ask your players during a Session 0. So these we've already kind of touched on the table rules and variants. Character creations, another big one to go over. We talked on what books you'll be utilized, what level will the campaign start at. This is a good one. So I'm starting my campaign at level 3, so let them know what to expect on that side. We should also let them know if you kind of know what level it will end at. So I'm estimating probably 10 or 11-ish that it'll end at for the main campaign, but I always like to do a level 20 finisher for the final arc just so people can realize their build. But letting your players know this up front will allow them to, they want to do some multi-classes or plan out their feats or whatever they're looking to do, they can kind of have a firm guideline on, so, hey, we're going to go for here for the regular campaign, and hey, if we get lucky, we may go to level 20 for a bonus option. But stat generation, what types of species are allowed. Like, for instance, like if you're playing Old Republic and you don't want to have anybody be a Chiss because the Chiss really weren't in there, depending on if you want to go for SWO canon or not, the Chiss really weren't in the Old Republic. So this could be a good way to kind of go over those up front. If you had somebody that wants to be a Jedi during the Imperial area, they could. That may be something you want to restrict, or just, hey, want to give them a heads up that this could be difficult for you. These are good things to let everybody know before they start building their character so that they don't get hung up on an idea and kind of get stuck on it and then have a little bit of conflict when you say, hey, that's a no-go. Similar on that side, too. One thing I always recommend all the DMs to look at, just to see if it's going to fit your style, the companion classes. So I'm allowing the companion classes for my game, but they can definitely be something that can be easy to make over-tuned as a PC and kind of make it pretty much an MVP. So some I know don't like to allow that or kind of restrict their uses, but this is something as a DM to consider and then really go in within your players when you're doing the Session 0 so they know what to expect and if they can or can't use that. But on that same lines, what feats are available? So I allow every feat, but I don't allow the companion keeper. The companion keeper is basically gives you a companion. You can pick it up as early as level 4. That kind of follows reduced but similar guidelines to the companion classes. In my opinion, I feel like it steps on some of the companion classes' toes a little bit, and it can be pretty overtuned for just one feat. So I don't allow it on my tables, but that may fit at your table. It's just good to have that conversation or good to think about it just so you know what you're thinking and get it in front of your players so they know what they're thinking too. But outside of that, too, backstory, length, style, format, how much freedom do your players have making NPCs? And these are some things that are kind of core to just regular Session 0, so we're not going to go too far into these ones. The next big one that I want to hit is the campaign details, because this is another one that has a couple big Star Wars only ones that could really come through, and you just really want to make sure you have them ironed out. The biggest one being, is your campaign running Legends canon or your own alternate homebrew universe? Going over this could help with some headaches, especially if you're playing, like, let's say you're playing in the Clone Wars area. You want to make sure they know kind of what Clone Wars era, are they going to be the main MP or the main characters? Is Obi-Wan and Ahsoka going to be around? Just kind of what they can expect there and kind of how that's going to be set up. For instance, I'm running my campaign. It's Legends at the base, but it kind of a homebrew state of the universe. I picked 1500 BBY because it's nothing really written in that era, so I could still be a Legends canon, still kind of fit all the tropes with that, but I can have my own story to tell and my own galactic framework to make. The only big constant is the Republic's around, so it makes it easy, and luckily it's pre-Rusan, so the Sith are around too, so makes it for easy storytelling, and gives me some creative license where I didn't have as much with Hunted. I can just kind of go through and make my own factions and really just make the galaxy the way I want it. So it just gives you some cool runway there, and letting your players know what's going on allows them to build their own characters. It gives them a reference where they want to go to Wikipedia and look things up, and for depending on what they're looking up and kind of where your campaign's at, I highly encourage it. It helps build out a good PC, but this just lets them know, kind of helps them refine that, and kind of knows where they can find the information. Similar, let your players know what era it's going to be set in. Star Wars changes vastly due to the eras. You could be the Old Republic with Jedi and Sith battling it out, pretty common. You could be Clone Wars with the Republic versus CIS. Or Rebellion era where the Jedi are being hunted by the Inquisitors and Vader, or Post, and the New Jedi Order with Luke. There's just so much that can change that letting them know what's going on there is going to be let them make better PCs and make easier, or help making their PCs easier too. So just some really cool rules of thumb on that side. The other big things too, so I've already mentioned this, kind of what classes or species will they provoke reactions within the galaxy. If you're in dark times in the Imperial era, being an alien or being a Jedi can really get some harsh reactions. So letting them know up front that, hey, if you start using the Force in public or use your saber in public, that could send some Inquisitors after you. Will definitely be fair game so the players know what to expect. And if they want to trip that wire, they can trip it, but otherwise this way they won't fall over it without even knowing it's there. The other big pieces too, we touched on Starship rules. Campaign having access to downtime. This kind of goes along with our Wretched Hives book, but I like to use downtime for my PCs, both for them to pursue some mechanical items you can do with downtime, but also just to flesh out their PC and kind of hopefully get some good RP generating on what they're doing when they're not fighting to save the galaxy. So highly recommend discussing that and kind of considering if it'll be a good fit for your players in your game. Outside of that, those are kind of the big Star Wars ones that are different for Session 0 for the campaign details. The only other thing I would mention, and this kind of goes over it pretty well, is the tone and genre for the game. And that's just due to Star Wars being a vast universe, having hundreds of books, dozens or a dozen different movies. It could really vary from tone and genre from movie to movie, book to book, comic book to comic book. So you kind of want to let your players know what you're expecting from your game. Like if you want to have a nitty-gritty warfare, Rogue One, Empire Strike Back style campaign where the heroes have their back to the wall, it's more serious, it's going to be a little bit more gritty, let them know that up front. This way they don't show up with Ewok and try to get the Christmas story vibes or the holiday special vibes from the game. So just letting them know kind of what they're expecting, what you're expecting, and kind of have the conversation maybe so you can come to a compromise if necessary. We'll make sure you don't have a accidental mismatch with that guy showing up on your campaign. So those are just kind of going through a look at the PDF. We're going to be posting this so you can use it at your table for free on our Patreon. So if you're interested in running those rules or having those as a reference as you're going through building your Session 0 or running it with your PCs, we will have that on Patreon. There's going to be a link in the YouTube. Click it, it's free, use it, and let us know what you think of it. This is something I was kind of going through my notes and making my own Session 0, and I'm like, this could be something that's good for the community. So if you like it, like the YouTube video, let me know what you think in the Discord or YouTube comments, whichever you prefer. But I definitely think this could be a great way to just unify the party. I've seen so many horror stories on Reddit from different RPG parties, and a lot of them are done just due to not having a good Session 0. This is going to let everybody get on the same page. So use it, add to it too. So if you find something I forgot on there for Star Wars or just Session 0s in general, throw it in the Discord or YouTube. We'll make sure we recognize you and get that added on there too. But overall, that's the end of the video. Do want to give one last plug to my Twitch. You'll see that down below, which is Twitch. Sorry, I was going to say backslash. It's actually /Tegan DJM. So check it out. go in, subscribe, follow me, and join us on the 25th, Tuesday the 25th at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time in the PM, as we go through Session 0 for the Invasion campaign. So it's going to be with the Yuzan Vogue, the Old Republic. It's going to be a great one, and you'll see more during the campaign about the lore, the PCs, and this is what I'm super excited for, and I definitely want you guys to join. And not even just for hear the cool lore stuff, but I want to have you guys have a chance to win the 3-month giveaway for Dropout TV. I've been loving it so far. The characters are amazing as always. Britain's killed at DM in the system, so I want you guys to see Star Wars played by the professionals too. So join us, enter to win, and hopefully you guys will be the lucky one, or the force will be with you, and you'll be able to win it. So check us out there. But overall, I want to thank you guys for spending the time with us. Download the Patreon, subscribe to the Twitch, and may the force be with you.